sometimes on a beat like that with the jobs, because I think it was three times as much, a beat like that would would have a pretty good reaction on the dollar. Now, high leverage trades, may have been it looks flat. I mean, it doesn't even look like it went up or down. It just kind of popped. And remember, closed, everything's closed. So, kind of, it was almost like they just, even though it is the first Friday of the month, so it's an early one. That's why I kind of call me it's an early Friday in the month. And sometimes they'll back it up and say, "Hey, we're going to do it next time," but they've been delayed. It'll be interesting to dig through and see what's actually in those jobs numbers. Obviously, this would take you to the AI situation and jobs. It also take you to the war situation and inflation. Lots of lots of companies out there laying off big time too. Tech companies disruption, AI disruption. It's all over the place. Make sure that you're keeping up with that kind of content and got good sources to understand what is taking place. I've covered this one pretty one of those, over and over and over and over and over. And I talked about it again last night in this COVID place. Mention of COVID out there. I hadn't really saw that it was. I don't know what's going on with that, but I've seen the mention of COVID and spreading of some kind of I don't know all the terms for it, but whisperings of that out there as well. There's not much going to get through with what's going on with the war. So that seems to be my take on a lot of the stuff I see whisperings about. I'm like, that ain't gonna matter until this war situation's over and this oil situation. It doesn't matter what kind of narrative that you start to try to spread out there. But it is interesting that we sit in the same spot. Great lessons. It gives you the understanding of what's going to happen if your money's in the middle of an event. They're going to stop all the leverage out. That's what's going to happen. What's going to happen to your position? It just depends. You know, what you're in and, what direction this sets up because that's what they're doing. They're setting up the next direction. They're resetting the COVID right there in front of you and setting up the next situation. And what did they set up right there? Raising interest rates after they printed. That's exactly what they set up. COVID, print, raise interest rates, and that just rip of the dollar. And it should just stick, the longer you look at that chart, the more that should just stick out in your mind. And it's raising interest rates. They just rip it. And when you see that, I was looking at it the other night, and I was like, man. And I hadn't given the scenario of and you have to go all the way to the monthly chart. The scenario of the rip. Like I'm so focused on they're going to go to the 80 because the square up's there. That side of me and that analysis of me. But the longer you look at the chart, that rip could show up right near too. So you go risk alley, and could we go right back into a situation where the dollar does that? I don't think you can from raising interest rates, but it could possibly happen. Are we going to have to revert all the way back to we're fighting the fuck out of inflation? Or the narrative of the stagflation starts to come through. If you read too many of the fear mongers, Europe's fucked when it comes to energy now. Now, is it true or not? There's a lot of that fear stuff going on and a lot of that posting of like people exactly know. And you have to stay away from that and kind of stay in the middle with some of this stuff. Um, and what is going to end up happening with what's happened. And it's not finished yet, but it seems to be going into a direction right now. And in the oil FOMO and that chart. And everybody that really has a clear understanding of what's going on here should know that if oil breaks that place I showed, 114, it's probably going to blow to 140. And it is definitely going to put a stamp on a very serious crisis. that is bubbling up under all this shit. And is it the financial crisis? Are we going to go into a financial crisis without this dollar collapse and all this? There's a lot of things to think about. And I'm still in the camp that it kind of gets kicked down the can and this is planned out. And Lord knows how to, making those kind of calls and putting people's money on the line. But it's important that you're positioned and safe right now from what could show up. And that would be flat, man, in so many ways, even though people are like, well, I can't make no money off my dollars in the bank and stuff like that. Inflation's eating it up. But it's not disappearing 50% of it overnight. It may feel like that. But yeah. So not in the camp that that's what we're going to get. But COVID, like leveraging escalation of these markets, is all over this DXY chart. And the bid and let deleveraging of the rest of the markets of the world, which means that we could be looking for big time stock market corrections because they've been pretty tame as far as I'm concerned, even though they're big. But it's because these markets just have continued over the years to go higher and higher and higher and higher. What a lot of people expected crude oil to do. Just thinking about the halts. I don't think a lot of people felt like in 2021 and 2022, 2020, you know, that alts were going to be just hanging off the cliff, bottom destroyed, everything, breaking lows and all of that. And VTC, even though it's at 70 or 60 or 70 right now, would have done what it did and not taken some of the ecosystem with it. We'll roll down to Ethereum and look at Ethereum. So these coins, these bigger coins, need that energy to show up, and it hasn't done it. Will it? I don't know that it will in the middle of what's going on. So we're back to, and so my weekend is listening and watching, holiday and all that stuff, but ears to the ground. I'll watch the price action, but it's ears to the ground more than the price action is important. I told you all that if you got involved in any of this right now, but ears to the ground. And if you're playing this and you're taking it, trying to take advantage of these crypto moves right now, you are really believing that you're going to be right because the information out there says we're going down. And in so many ways, that conviction is your risk. And you're either going to be wrong or right, which is always the case. But the cards are stacked against you right now, no matter what I tell you. They're going to go down. And sometimes they do exactly what they're supposed to. And you have to be careful with that. Not so much at risk, things cleaned up. I mean, obviously the holders are holding. There's nothing they can do. They asked for this. They didn't ask for these specific events and all this to play out. But when you hold, you're agreeing to a lot of conditions that people do not consider. They don't have any idea how long it's going to be. Most of them have no idea what they're holding. Staking can be the same way. There was I sent a link to yesterday. Some sex, CEX, Central Exchange, could a new one or something. I hadn't seen the name. I don't know what area it was. And you staked 1,000 USDT there to basically get 20%, which is $200. So you basically went over and loaned these people. Now, when you stake them, can you trade them? I didn't look into that. That may be what they were getting at. I didn't go another level down. Looks like somebody else showed up. Who showed up? No. God, what am I doing? I looked up and the number said 3. So beware, be careful. In so many ways, a weight trade. Stick to the bigger coins. Stick to these AI coins and don't chase them. You need blood. As Fett sits here, pretty good kind of algo like price action, starting to make some progress. And honestly, the only way that you come in and buy algo without a deeper dip here is if you believe, I mean, bet you believe that the bull's coming and there's a 900 more percent to go.